Welcome to Mary Alice.
What did you do?
We are a Desperate Housewives recap podcast with me, Erin McGee.
And me, Jakub Tansey. Two best friends breaking down each episode until we answer the ultimate question, Mary Alice, what did you do?
Unless, of course, we have finished season 1, in which case, insert new mystery here.
Yes, there's a lot to unpack on Wisteria Lane.
Content warnings can be found in the episode description.
So get comfortable and let's get into this week's episode. Welcome back, dear listeners. Our desperados? I don't think we're sticking with that.
No.
Don't worry, I won't encourage your mother.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mo. We are back to talk about Desperate Housewives, episode 3, Pretty Little Picture.
I'm so glad that you said Pretty Little Picture because I keep calling this episode Pretty Little Liars in my head. And I found out that the person who wrote this episode wrote for Pretty Little Liars and wrote for Ugly Betty, two of our favourite shows to watch together.
Do you know what? That's probably why this is such an iconic episode for us.
I think so.
This truly is such an infamous episode. I think there's a scene in this episode which both of us recall with perfect memory before recapping it and rewatching it. It's just one of those ones that just sticks with you.
I think that this is the first episode where we're really getting into what the show's tone is going to be, what the story is going to be. I mean, the pilot is perfect, but this is the episode where if somebody needed to start somewhere and they didn't want to go from the beginning, I'd say this one embodies everything this show is.
Yes, and this is also a good episode to jump into the pod because we've also upgraded our audio setup, which is why we sound so sexy today.
Yeah, we have fancy new mics. I've been calling them Delfinos.
Delfinos?
Delfinos. Oh, sorry. I have a Scottish accent. I can leave me alone.
Yes, you're listening to us through our lovely Delfinos, which we have. So yeah, enjoy.
Yeah, I didn't know we could sound this good. I was saying to Jakub, it's like when you go to opticians and you get glasses for the first time. I was like, oh, we sound incredible.
One thing that I've realised in rewatching this episode is that this episode, for me, has a very disproportionate amount of fashion outs.
Oh, yeah.
For me. And the Wisteria Lane Fashion Police will be out in full force this recap.
I am intrigued because I'm thinking about some fashion that I really love, which makes me think we're going to have some very different opinions.
I can't wait.
I can't wait to talk about this episode in general. I feel like I have been waiting for this one. I know we're only 3 episodes in, but I have been waiting for the iconic line that is going to come up that I already know is going to be both of our quotes of the week. We don't even need to discuss it. It'll happen.
Exactly. There is only one correct answer. And it really is a legendary quote of the week. Legendary status. Like, I think for the whole show's run, all 8 seasons, This is one of the quotes that I always remember from it.
Yes, absolutely.
The climax of this episode will take place at a dinner party. I know we're watching Desperate Housewives, not The Real Housewives, but I can't help but make comparisons sometimes. And this is one of those times.
Yeah, of course.
So this really is the dinner party from hell episode of Desperate Housewives on Wisteria Lane.
Yes.
Nothing goes right at dinner parties in any kind of reality or even scripted show, to be honest. This is no exception.
I think there's a thing that every couple has, and if you're listening and go, that is not the couple or relationship that I am in, then you are a liar. Where after you hang out with other couples, you are smug, going, oh, thank God we're not them. Thank God we're not like them. And it is very evident in this episode.
Well, I can't wait to get into that dinner party. So shall we start the recap?
Please do. I actually don't know any breaking news noises. Breaking news!
Breaking news!
New special guest star just dropped. We have the most exciting announcement that we've ever had to make in the 3 episodes of this podcast.
Welcome to the future. This is future Erin and Jakub.
Yes, and the first thing we would like to say is we've made it. We've secured a guest star for a bonus episode.
I don't know how we did it. Episode 3, and we have secured a cast member to interview.
If you have seen our Instagram poll, you might have already had an inkling of who it is, but we will reveal later in the episode.
Yes. We're going to get into the recap, and then once we've covered the character in question, we will play you a sneak little preview of our upcoming video episode interviewing said cast member. Thank you for listening to this breaking news and look forward to the little sneak peek of our bonus episode.
I'm so excited.
Woo!
Arr! That was an impression of Bongo. Do you think that came across? We have to talk about how this episode starts, which is the corpse of Mary Alice burning. And it's creepy.
Immediately, my first thought, didn't we already see her gravestone?
We did.
Yeah, did they dig her up and burn her? Did this happen before we saw the grave and only her ashes were buried? So many questions.
Mary Alice evil twin theory?
It's because it's the same writer from Pretty Little Liars. He was like gunning for this theory, but then it never panned out.
Mary Alice, A.
I really hope people listening are familiar with Pretty Little Liars, because that joke was gold.
We go into Mary Alice talking about her friend Bree. She describes her as having a look of fear in her eyes. Bree comes downstairs. We've kind of seen this scene before already in the last episode, but she's trying to get Rex up and back into bed so that the children don't realise that they're having marital problems. She says, I miss you. And Rex says, I know you do. I think we gave Bree a lot of flack last episode for not being open about her feelings, but every time she does, Rex basically shoots her down. So that's me in defense of Bree. He says that he might have to be forced to move back upstairs if the couch remains as uncomfy as it is. So Bree is cutting up that couch in that spring.
Yeah, she sabotages that sofa bed. And listen, this hits me on a personal level as someone who has spent...
I know exactly what you're going to say.
As someone who has slept on a sofa bed for about a year recently, consistently, they're not comfortable. And seeing Bree sabotage it to make it less comfortable for Rex, really hard for me to take her side in this situation.
I am so on Bree's side in this situation. I just think that stay in the bed. They clearly have been unhappy for a while. The sharing of the bed, while I understand is intimate, the staying on the sofa bed feels like such a, I'm going to sleep downstairs. But
I also think for Rex, it's like, I think he needs to really communicate to Bree how serious their issues are, because Bree is really good at just like, as long as everything looks okay, then it's fine. And so this is almost like the only way he can get through to her, by making it almost like visually clear. This is not okay. We have serious problems, and I'm demonstrating that with this sleeping situation.
Not you defending Rex.
Boy, you try sleeping on a sofa bed for a year. See who you defend. So after our classic theme song, it is the next morning, and Susan's looking through the newspaper when she sees the date on it and remembers that they have a dinner party scheduled, which was organised by Mary Alice before she died. So she takes the little post-it from her calendar and goes over to Lynette's to bring it up. And when she knocks on the door, Mary Alice answers. And this is just a really fun, smooth transition into a flashback of the time that Mary Alice first made the plan with the girls. But very interestingly, she notes that let's plan it for a month from now.
Yes.
Because in the first episode alone, the pilot episode, 7 days passed after the funeral. And this is 2 episodes later. More time has passed, which means she must have gotten the note and committed suicide really soon after making this dinner plan.
Yes. When you see at the beginning the dynamics with the girls, we've spoken a little bit about how strong their friendship is. And I even said last episode, Bree's given this line that suggests that maybe she doesn't realise how important these girls are to her yet. I feel like in this episode, we're really starting to see their friendship solidifying. They feel stronger. And I don't know if it's because of the loss of Mary Alice, who seems very much like a bit of a glue for them, that's kind of brought them together or not.
Well, Bree really takes on the role of Mary Alice with this dinner, and it almost feels like that's helping things come back to normal, like that kind of, those roles that were missing are being fulfilled again, regardless of who's doing it.
Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about all of the women reading the paper, because what year is it? What year is it? It's 2004, and every woman is starting her day with the paper.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It just seemed really significant to me. I'm like, times have changed. And I love the detail of Lynette still reading the business section.
Oh, she's so nostalgic.
Well, I'm just wondering about what the equivalent would be today. Is Lynette on BBC News? Is Susan doing the New York Times games?
Gabby's just seeing the headlines screenshotted on various memes on Instagram.
Susan thinks that the girls should do the dinner anyway in the present day. And Bree says, oh, I'll make braised lamb shanks. Is there somebody you'd like to invite? And coincidentally, Michael Delfino runs on by.
And I'd also at this time like to clock egregious fashion moment, one which haunts me through the whole episode because Bree does not change out of this outfit for a long time. And Bree is oh my God, okay, I have so much to say. So you know how in the pilot I talked about how the comment on Bree making her own clothes was abandoned from the pilot?
Yes.
So we don't see her make this outfit.
Oh, Jakub.
But I believe she made this outfit
Jakub.
because it looks like it's made from like some cheap carpet from H&M's home department. The little like frilly bit all down the edges just looks like the end of a carpet. And it's just, the material looks vile. The colors are fine, whatever. But it's just, it looks, it's not it for me.
It's not it for me either, to be fair. It kind of looks like the material. This is a real throwback for the 90s kids. Do you remember when the fashion, for goodness knows what reason, was to have your toilet roll covered with like a doll who was wearing like a tulle type of pinky outfit? Did you not have this?
We definitely did not have this.
No. I don't know why this was a thing, but you would go into people's houses and you'd have to lift the doll up to get the toilet roll from underneath. I'm going to show you pictures of this later.
I can't wait. Oh, we'll have to add one to our Instagram post.
Oh, yeah, we will.
So after they settle on going ahead with the dinner in Mary Alice's honour, we get 4 different scenes of the women essentially breaking the news to their husbands that they will be attending this dinner.
As someone who is engaged to an introvert, I feel this in my bones.
So we start with our favourite couple, Carly.
Carly!
Shout out. I don't know why I said that. I'm going to cut that.
No, don't you
To
dare.
Carly.
Don't you dare. If you send me an edit of this where you don't have a shout out to Carly in it, I'm going to be like, sir, bring it back. Jakub is our editor. He does an amazing job. Every time that I say something stupid, he takes that baby right out of there.
Carlos is saying that he is too busy with work, which Gabby is mad at. What else is new? As Carlos is leaving to work, he tells her to find a way to relax, so she calms down. And so naturally, she calls John the child gardener at school to come and, well, you know what? See our episode 2 rant on John the child gardener.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
And also, the gym clothes being kept on. Can you think of anything worse than even, I obviously cannot speak to this as much as you can, but a teenage boy's gym room. Can you imagine John, the child gardener, wearing Lynx Africa? The stench of Lynx Africa in the air being brought into Gabrielle Solis's house, who's definitely wearing some form of like Baccarat Rouge.
My nostrils just shriveled up at the thought.
So Tom and Lynette are talking. Tom doesn't want to go either. None of the men do. Tom is like, I just want to relax after all my hard work. He even has the audacity to say to Lynette, do you remember what it's like to work a 60-hour week? She is working more than a 60-hour week. She is working constantly, every second of every day.
Tom is lazing around on the couch as he said this while Lynette is literally standing there with a basket full of laundry.
And he chucks something into that basket. And honestly, I don't think I've ever hated a man more. I will say, my opinion on this will flip slightly because I do think Tom Scavo comes out pretty good in this episode.
Yeah, this is definitely the first episode at all where we see any positive qualities in Tom. Tom also asks Lynette, just, to pile on more work for her, if she can find time to develop some photos he took on a disposable camera at his work event.
Oh, I totally forgot about that detail. Thank you so much for bringing that back.
That will come back.
That comes back.
So Bree and Rex doesn't want to go, but naturally Bree is hosting, so he has no choice. And Bree is telling Rex not to drink, so he doesn't share the fact they're in counselling. Unsurprising for Bree to want to keep all of that hush-hush. And so she comes up with a cover story about them taking tennis lessons, so people know why they're taking time to be at counselling.
I love that that's her go-to excuse. Oh, we're taking tennis lessons.
Yes, and there's such a funny moment when Rex sarcastically asks how they're doing, and Bree, with all the sincerity in the world, says that her backhand is improving immensely, but he's still having problem with his serve.
Yes, it kind of sounds like innuendo. It feels like a bit of a sex jab.
To me, it sounded like she's almost like having a small dig at their marriage. Like, I'm doing the best here. What are you doing to fix this?
See, I totally took it as a bedroom thing.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe.
I mean, I know they must do because they have 2 kids, but it's really difficult to imagine them doing the deed.
Then we get to Carly 2. We meet Carl and his friend Brandy.
His friend Brandy.
His friend, his special friend Brandy, formerly his secretary, the woman that he cheated on Susan with during their 14-year marriage, as we come to learn.
That's longer than I remembered.
Some interesting things to know. I'm not going to come out well here.
Oh.
Carl is so attractive.
Oh, okay. I'm glad we're on the same page here.
For people who are listening at home, Jakub and I rarely agree about a man being attractive. It feels like we are both looking at 2 different human beings. We are not on the same page. The Venn diagram maybe touches ever so slightly.
And this is that crossover, baby. It's Carl.
And it is this Carl. He's awful, and I love him. So, Carl is awful because he is not paying child support. He's just a deadbeat. Also, Brandy, with an I. Brandy and Carl are taking Julie away. They are saying goodbye. Brandy has a can of something. She throws it towards Susan's, I'm going to use the American phrase, garbage can. It misses. She ignores it. The unspoken thing is that she's expecting Susan to pick it up. She is so rude when she throws this can. I don't know if this is a woman thing or not, but I audibly gasped at Brandy throwing the can and just leaving it. And I was completely on Susan's side here. I will say, Susan and Carl have chemistry. They have a vibe. It's giving enemies to lovers. So Susan kind of kicks off and she insists that Brandy pick up the can, and then Carl's going to pick up the can, and then Julie's going to pick up the can. And eventually Susan screams at Carl, and Mike and Bongo, my best friend, see the whole thing.
Yeah, that's right. We're in episode 3 and we have dog.
It's giving dog. I'm so sorry.
I love that statement. So now we're going to talk about Zach and Paul, and we're going to talk about all of their scenes together because they're very sort of separate from the rest of the episode.
Yeah, let's do a deep dive because they really do feel like they're in a different show. It's what this show does so well. We've spoken about it before. The genre here is thriller. The lighting is different. It feels cold. It feels mysterious. And the rest of this episode, I think, is quite comedic.
Yeah, extremely.
Yeah.
We start with breakfast time. Zach and Paul are having breakfast, and Zach clocks that Mary Alice's obituary is missing from the papers. And Paul says he didn't really bother adding one in, which upset Zach. He comments that maybe when Paul dies, he won't bother making an obituary for him either. And then Paul responds with something very ominous.
Yes.
So I'm going to quote this directly.
Suspicious Paul is suspicious.
Suspicious Paul is suspicious. He says, "That will be your choice to make, assuming you outlive me." Suspicious.
It is suspicious. It's his only character trait at this moment. But I really like their dynamic. I find it really interesting. Also, the actors look so physically similar to me that I completely believe them as father and son. There's something about the young actor, Zach, who seems to be kind of mimicking some of the actor playing Paul's mannerisms that is really intriguing to me. They have the same look of anger on their faces throughout all of this.
And it is at this time that I would also like to clock that I have been a little bit too harsh on Zach's fashion, because in the same vein of what you're saying, I've realized he's just wearing very similar fashion to Paul, his dad. And it suits Paul more because he's older and it's like an older man's fashion. But I mean, as I think we get a sense from this episode that Paul is quite controlling of Zach.
Yes.
And so it wouldn't surprise me if Zach doesn't have much say on his wardrobe. And so I'm going to try and be less harsh on him going forward.
You're going to try and be less harsh on the teenager who's lost his mum to suicide and has an emotionally distant father. You're going to maybe rein it back in a little bit on his polo shirts. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, Erin, that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Zach goes into the utility room / garage and he finds a random box which he decides to nose in. And of course, that box has a gun in it. The gun that Mary Alice used to kill herself. And quite naturally, his first thought is, hey, Papa, why are we keeping this?
Yeah, there's another ominous scene. I guess all of these scenes are quite ominous, but it's like late at night and Paul goes to get a snack from the fridge and you can hear the clicking of the gun barrel before you see it, and it's really quite scary.
It's filmed like a horror movie. He's in the dark playing with the gun. Zach is doing some phenomenal acting here. It's bleak and shadowy. And again, there is a sense that Zach does not trust his dad.
This scene really is where I started to clock how controlling Paul is being, because Zach is protesting, asking about why he's keeping this gun. And when Paul's trying to shut him down, he makes a comment about like, you know, have you taken your medication today, or you need to take your medication? And my immediate thought is, what have you got Zach on?
Yes, I think it's one of those great lines where you can think about it in the ominous way. You can think that he's essentially drugging Zach. Or is Zach a child who's lost his parent and maybe needs sleeping pills or anxiety medication because of what he's going through? It's left really open.
It's a bit of a unexpected dynamic between the two of them. But then there's a knock at the door. And our girl Bree is there to invite them to the dinner party. And the first thing I want to comment on is that Bree's outfit here is almost identical to Mary Alice's outfit when she first planned the dinner. She's got like that sweater crossed over her shoulders kind of thing. And so they're really hammering home like, I'm Mary Alice now.
Well, we know where Bree goes. And I think that this is an interesting foreshadowing to that in this season. Jakub is looking at me like,
okay, we're going to come back to this in a few years. So remember this scene.
2030, clock it. But she does. And also I love the lighting on her with the cold lighting in the young house. And then Bree comes up and it's warm and it's glowing. And she's talking, first of all, Bree says it's a casual night with the gang, which is a sentence she has never uttered before in her entire life.
Bree is so good at dramatically changing the tone.
Yes.
It's dark and ominous, and then she answers the door and she's like, hi, and it's like suddenly so cheerful and bright, and she's always doing that.
She is an absolute tonic. I think it's a credit to Marsha Cross being from a soap opera background. She just nails the tone of this show time after time.
Zach, who is still holding the gun, is at the door talking to Bree, and Paul takes advantage of the distraction and the audience, and he sneakily takes the gun off of Zach at this time when they're at the door, and at the same time tells Bree that they won't be able to make it to the dinner. And Bree is clearly a little bit concerned about Zach at this time. She immediately clocks something's wrong and asks him if he's okay. And as she's leaving, Zach almost tearfully thanks her for doing this dinner to remember her mom. And it's really sad because I'm just thinking like, wow, Paul is not giving his son any love at this time.
Yeah, no, that line, and he delivers it so well. And there is definitely, you're so right, a parallel. I think he's almost speaking to his mum in some sort of way. Then we get to Zach being presumably asleep and presumably medicated.
There's like med bottles on the table.
Yes. Paul goes to cover Zach with a blanket, which I have noted as significant because it's the first sign that we're seeing of affection from Paul. It does feel like his dad is still in there for me in that moment. He's maybe not able to say the words or have the conversations that he wants to with Zach, but he does have those paternal instincts still. So in the background, is the television is on, and Paul finds out that the chest has been uncovered, and the news anchor mentions that it contains human remains. And I would like to clock this as death count number 2.
Death count number 2 added.
Paul turns the TV and the lamp off, but dun-dun-dun, Zach is awake, baby. And here's the whole thing. Up
until this point, suspicious Paul Young has been suspicious, but now we have it confirmed that he has tried to dispose of human remains. So now we know he's done something wrong, for real, for sure.
I do wonder if that's why we get the flashback in the beginning of Mary Alice in the coroner's office and being burned to show that it isn't her.
Ooh, that is a phenomenal observation.
Thank you so much.
Obviously, like, we know whose remains it is because we've seen the show before.
No, we have no idea.
But yeah, okay. So anyone who's watching for the first time, there we go. Okay, so now we have another collection of scenes with Gabby and a new neighbor, which probably one of my favorite story arcs in this episode. It sparked a lot of comedy.
Yes.
As Gabby is waiting for John to arrive from school for that hookup, she's on the phone with her mother. And she's talking about her family and mentions she'll take her Nana to church and stuff on Sunday. And I think this very much gets retconned later.
Yes.
Because her mother does eventually come into the show and they do not have a positive relationship. And it's made clear later in the show that she is not in touch with her family. So this is a little something that's abandoned from the non-pilot. Just a little point to note.
Yeah.
But then John does arrive and they immediately start going at it right in the hallway entranceway to their home. And as they start making out, Gabby is shocked to see a little girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, I would say, looking at them through the glass door and then run away. And you know what? She absolutely deserved this.
To which I say, finally.
No one is surprised because they have not been shy about this affair at all.
We have been saying before, this is a busy street. These neighbours are nosy. Why has nobody caught them yet? It's just great choice from the writers to have the person catching them be a child.
It's perfect.
Gabby is on the hunt for this little girl.
Another child she's on the prowl for.
Oh my God. And she sees Ashley, who we find out is the little girl, shaking hands with Carlos. Of course, Carlos is only greeting children with a handshake like it's a business arrangement.
It's his only form of communication. He's made 3 deals with Ashley in the last 10 minutes.
I have to bring up Rory, my partner, the love of my life. He did go to shake the hand of my nephew when he first met him, and it's one of my favourite things in the world. My nephew just stared at it like, what do I do?
What's happening?
So it becomes established that she is the daughter of a new neighbour. And also, she has an absolute death stare.
I wrote death stare down specifically as well.
Yeah. I would like to flag her as the monster of the week. In the side TV show, Julie the Vampire Slayer, Ashley is the monster of the week, I believe.
Yeah.
Because that's why she couldn't come into the door, because she was not invited.
Exactly. She just had to stand and look in. I also noted that if there was ever a gender-swapped version of The Omen, Ashley would play the titular role.
This girl does so well.
Later, Gabby approaches Ashley when she's playing outside and tries to essentially spin the story of what Ashley saw. She's saying that, sometimes people kiss their friends and, quote, kind of like a high five on the lips, which, yeah, okay, good try. She tried.
We know from previous episodes, because of her trying to hide that rose from Susan, that Gabby is a horrific liar.
Yeah, and this is no exception. She also tries to bribe Ashley with a doll, which is doing nothing for Ashley. The look that Ashley gives Gabby when she's asking if they're all good now is so funny. It's such a contorted face of a mix of like confusion and like the audacity.
Yes.
It's so funny. And as Gabby is leaving, Ashley tells Gabby that what she'd really like is a bike. And you know what? Hell yeah, girl, get that bag.
Yeah, I mean, she's sitting on some hot information.
Exactly.
I love that even as a child, because I do think it's realistic, she knows she's got the bargaining chip.
It's because she talked to Carlos. She got business tips.
Yes. Stop. Carlos was like, hello, child. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
And so naturally, we also get a scene of Gabby presenting Ashley with a top-of-the-line bike.
I love this.
At this point, Ashley chooses to reveal that she, in fact, does not know how to ride a bike and demands Gabby to teach her now.
I, too, cannot ride a bike. So I really felt this in my bones. She's just a little gal who wants to be taught how to ride a bike, and so do I.
If you're listening, Eva Longoria, if you give lessons still, come meet our friend Erin.
Oh my, do you know what? Now I definitely can't learn how to ride a bike because I'm going to be holding out for Eva Longoria to teach me in heels.
Yeah, that's going to be our bonus content.
Then we cut to Gabby and Ashley on the bike. Gabby's trying to teach her in heels. They have a bit of a lesson. She's doing pretty well, but then Ashley falls over. Gabby's saying, I can't do this anymore. I'm in heels, yada, yada. Ashley wants to do it again the next day. And it's very clear that Gabby's in this for the long haul.
Gabby is relieved, realizing that the next day is a school day, and so she won't, in fact, be able to be available for bike lessons. However, Ashley then responds with this quote: "I'm homeschooled. I'm always around."
She said, "I'm always watching. I know what you did. It makes me sick.
I'm going to tell."
I love that no one's clocked it either, going, "Hey, Gabby, you hate children and you are teaching this child to ride a bike. Why?"
You hate children and you're having an affair with one.
Tea. Well, welcome, Emily Charias.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
We are so excited to have Ashley.
But I wanted to ask you specifically about the absolute death stare that you give Gabby throughout the episode. We are obsessed with it. And so I just wondered how much of that was just you versus like how much direction you got.
You know, I don't want to toot my own horn, but that was very much an Emily thing.
Yes.
And frankly, I don't know how much actual acting went into it because I've been death staring people like that for my whole life. That has been an intrinsic part of me, I think, since day one. I don't know what drove me to do that, honestly, because it was in some ways, I think, kind of a weird choice, one that I'm very glad I made. But yeah, it's not like they were like, give her the Kubrick stare. I just kind of did it. And I think honestly, one of the things I like even more than like that weird Kubrick stare is that moment where I think it's when I'm like drawing with the chalk on the sidewalk. And she's like, sometimes we even kiss people who are just our friends. And I just kind of look at her like, girl.
But it's also everybody's been looked at like by a child in that way of, oh, come on.
Yes. Yeah, that is completely accurate. The more time I spend with children, the more I'm like, actually, I think that was a pretty grounded portrayal I had back in the day.
You were doing the deep cut. You were doing method acting.
Mm-hmm.
So next, we have Susan and Lynette talking about Mike seeing her fight with Carl. Lynette encourages Susan to work through her issues with him, i.e. forgive Carl so that she can move on. And Susan mentions leaving Mike 3 messages about the dinner party and doesn't expect him to come. And presumably by messages, she means like voicemails because it's 2004.
Yes.
But she's essentially triple texted this man. And if I were Mike, that would be very off-putting. I hate that.
I find this so interesting because you and I differ on dating things so much. I am of the ilk that if somebody likes you enough, it doesn't matter if they triple text you. If you're kind of half keen on them, then things like that are going to deter you and put you off, but you weren't that into them anyway.
I just think that, especially in a new situation, she doesn't really know Mike. They've not hung out much together. If I'm getting that level of keenness right off the bat, that kind of puts me off a bit. Once you get to know them a bit, that's a whole different situation.
See, I disagree, but mainly because I am Susan. And I will triple text. I will quadruple text. I mean, either you like me or you don't. This is who I am. I triple text you probably on the way here.
Well, you may be Susan, but I'm clearly not Mike because, spoiler alert, he does go to the dinner.
I think it's quite sweet. And again, if Susan and Mike are going to work out, he needs to know that she's neurotic and chaotic and, accidentally rapping. Didn't mean that.
So as Susan leaves, Lynette opens and looks through the pictures she had developed for Tom and is mad to see that they are all of him partying with his work friends.
She's mad. I'm mad. He is in a sombrero. He is drinking. And I openly was thinking, screw you, Tom. Screw you. This woman is breaking her back every episode to raise all of your offspring. You're wanting to risk it with birth control. Eventually, Lynette says, I'm going to go to this dinner party and you can watch the kids, Tom. And Tom can't even open his own Jell-O. during this scene. They're having this conversation where and Tom's like, how hard can it be? They're just kids. Hee hee hee. And he cannot open a Jell-O for himself.
It's also the way he tries to pass off his partying photos as a business meeting.
Yes. And again, it's that thing of you don't understand what it's like to work a 60-hour week. He is constantly getting reprieve and moments of reprieve. And she's not getting any moments of reprieve. I think that's the conversation. We speak a lot more now, and we're a lot more open about these things, about weaponized incompetence and about, you know, the mental load. But she has no outlet for her energy. She is always a mother. And he is not always a father in his life. He gets at least 60 hours a week where he isn't a parent.
We also get a little scene at some point of, as Lynette's getting ready for the dinner, we see her secretly feed her kids lots of little sugary treats before bed later than they're usually allowed.
And I would too, because just before that, Tom says, it's not brain surgery, they're just kids. Sorry, you have raised the children of Satan.
Which you would know if you were home more.
Yeah, I also have a note, which is Lynette is the most stressed anyone has ever been in a face mask. I love this for her, though. I feel like she's going back to her old routine, going, you know what's going to relax me? I'll do my hair. I'll do my face mask.
Do you know what, though? This, fashion-wise, Lynette, this is her moment. Because this is the first episode we've seen her wear clothes that don't feature a collar.
Yes. And also, this is an episode where they allow us to see how beautiful Felicity Huffman is.
Oh, yeah.
They have to hide it in other episodes. But this one, they let it peek out.
Exactly. Later, we see Susan looking through photos of her own. It's a photo album of her and Julie and Carl. But Carl's faces have been cut out of all the photos. And here's a question I have. Do you think in today's society that people will do an equivalent of this with AI? Like, you know how you can do magic eraser to remove people from images?
Oh, that's really interesting. I suppose the equivalent would be, you know, on people's Instagram when you notice that all of their
photos with their ex
someone.
are gone. Well, I'm not talking about Instagram specifically. I mean more like the photos you have saved on your phone, like personal memories.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I want all pictures of me and my exes to be me and Jeffrey Dean Morgan from this day forward. I think
and that is where Magic Eraser comes in to help to save the day. So then feeling nostalgic and also thinking about what Lynette said to her earlier, Susan leaves Carl a message asking him to give her a moment the next day when she drops off Julie and passes on her regards to Brandy with an eye. And honestly, this is the first mature thing we've seen Susan do all season.
Yes, I have as my note, this is the most I've ever liked Susan.
And it might be the most I ever liked Susan.
Oh, baby, it is so all downhill from here. But it's just, she's trying. She's putting an effort in to be mature, even though she has every right not to be. And I think part of it is not just for her, but she's also trying to be a bit mature for Julie, which is, you know, not very bad mum of her, which is great.
I also noted that obviously the episode is called Pretty Little Pictures and there's lots of photo chat in this episode, so it's very on brand.
Yes, and Pretty Little Picture gives the idea, again, of this pretty little picture, but something else going on underneath. Mm-hmm. It's another episode title named after a Stephen Sondheim song for all the musical folk out there.
There we go.
Yeah. Susan answers the door in a towel to Carl. And this is where we find out we're married for 14 years, which is so long. Carl is looking very attractive, I think is fair to say. Mm-hmm. Susan says that she needs an apology from Carl for how the marriage ended because she's never gotten one. And Carl just keeps saying, the heart wants what it wants.
My favorite thing is Susan's response of, the heart wants what it wants? Yeah, well, my heart wants to hurt you, but I can control myself.
Yes. So good. But yes, Carl is not likable at all, apart from the fact that he's...
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately for us. So Susan chases him out in the towel. And then this is, I think, one of the most iconic physical comedy scenes of the entire show.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the quote of the week, which will come to at the dinner party being the most memorable quote. But I think this is one of the most memorable visuals from all of the show's run.
Yes, so Susan chases Carl out to the car. And the car speeds away with Susan's towel, and she is naked in the middle of the street. And Terry Hatcher, I think, does a really good job of this scene. She really sells it. It could be completely ridiculous and unbelievable, but her kind of charmingly finding a plant pot to cover herself with, and she does these weird side skips along her lawn.
She looks like she's a crab walking. It's like scuttling around the side of her house.
You're so right. She's full scuttle. She tries to get back into her house, but she is locked out. She tries to get in the back door, and then she slips and falls into the shrubbery. And of course, because we're in a rom-com, Mike walks out and sees her. He delivers this, "So how are you?" And Mike reveals that he has been away. Suspicious Mike is suspicious, and didn't get her messages, but he will show up to the dinner. And then he says, "I assume the dress is casual." Sir has jokes. We are really giving Mike a personality now.
And you know what? He's not usually very funny, so I don't know why this doesn't stick around, but I love a funny Mike.
Yes.
Next we have counselling. And let me tell you, Bree is still in her raggedy carpet look. Bree and Rex are at counselling again with Dr. Goldfine, and Bree is questioning the need for private sessions for both herself and Rex, as she has no personal issues other than the fact her husband wants to leave her. And it's clear that Rex does have things he wants to discuss privately with Goldfine. So eventually they agree to give Rex the first half hour of the session as a one-to-one and then flip the second half. And as Bree reluctantly agrees, she says this: "Fine. Oh, and doctor, if what he's about to discuss has anything to do with adultery, prostitution, or internet pornography, I would really appreciate you taking a moral hardline." And then she
It's my favourite image from the entire
and
episode.
then she stands up and swings the tennis racket she has over her shoulder as she leaves. The irony, the audacity, just the general iconicness of this moment.
Bree Vandekamp will commit to a bit. She is rocking around with that tennis racket, and she's got a proper cover for it, and you know she's bought tennis shoes. I love her.
And it's just so funny talking about a moral hardline as she is continuing with this big lie about the tennis. It's just so funny.
I also think what's quite interesting here is it is the first time we're introduced to the idea that Rex is hiding something too. So Rex is giving Bree a lot of flack for her not opening up completely. And yet, it is very clear in this episode. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to have private therapy sessions. Definitely not. But she isn't the only one who isn't communicating.
Now we have the titular scene, the dinner party from hell. It's all been coming to this.
I'm sweating.
Oh my God. So Susan and Mike arrive. They're having great banter. Lynette is on the phone to Tom, who is stressed about the overly hyped kids. And Lynette is so unbothered and at peace in this moment. Gabby is struggling to walk post bike lessons with the heels. Carlos is also there. I guess he did make it to dinner after all. And there's another knock at the door. And who's at the door, Erin? It's the Wisteria Lane Fashion Police.
I was so confused. I was frantically checking my notes, scrolling, going, I feel like I'm going to get this answer wrong.
Before we delve into the meat of this scene, I would like to just have a little clock of the dinner party fashion.
I think that's true. Before we do, can I just say that Mike coming in with Susan, saying that he helped her break in, they're so adorable in this scene. And him kind of getting a dig at her, saying Susan had a problem finding something to wear.
Funny Mike is funny.
Yeah, let's keep funny Mike. We don't.
I already miss him because I know we won't see him again.
Death Count 3, R.I.P. Funny Mike.
Add it to the list.
No, let's get into the fashion. I'm really intrigued by what you have to say.
Okay, first of all, Bree is struggling this week. I hated what Bree wore.
What?
She looked like she was wearing a silk pajama top and was using the matching trousers as a scarf.
I loved this prawn cocktail in a glass. I liked it. I liked the little neck detail. I liked the colour on her. I was into it. I thought it was cute.
Well, we'll have to agree to disagree.
Well, I'm hoping we don't disagree on this. Lynette's white dress.
Oh my God. Phenomenal.
Phenomenal. And her makeup is soft. It's like a scoop white round neck and it goes into a little kind of fitted thick belt.
It looks so elegant on her.
She looks like she's at a white party, a sailing party, that type of place.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm not a huge fan of Gabby's look, shockingly.
I'm the same. I feel like they kind of let the other housewives shine in this moment. She's in a side pony, for crying out loud.
Yeah, the side pony did her no favors.
No, and the lilac is not her colour.
No, I think so. The material of her dress makes it look kind of more casual than what we're used to with Gabby. And I'm just not a fan of the design. It's a really structured design. Like there's just so many angles to it. And I'm like, Gabby's body already has the correct angles. Like you don't need to be putting her in this like suit of armor dress.
Yes, I agree. I'm trying to picture what the men are wearing, but I know I don't
They're
care.
all wearing shit suits.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
That's how I feel when it's like the fashion at the Oscars. I'm like, and now some mediocre suits. Now we have a rare scene where the husbands of Wisteria Lane are interacting. Rex and Carlos are talking about tennis, and Carlos is genuinely intrigued and asking Rex some questions about it when Rex gives up and reveals that Bree and him are actually in marital counselling. Bree drops a plate of hors d'oeuvres.
I also wrote hors d'oeuvres in my notes. I don't know why I'm so excited about that.
And everybody is gagged at the reveal, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
The mic drop, the hors d'oeuvre drop, the everything drop.
I love how, because earlier she asked Rex not to drink so that he wouldn't talk about counselling.
Yes.
She angrily takes the glass of wine out of Rex's hand.
Oh, you didn't even notice that. And speaking of fashion, Rex is wearing the ugliest pink shirt, pink tie combo that Bree has picked out for him, obviously, to kind of match, to kind of give that persona of being a perfect couple.
Yeah. Rex, at this point, very clearly spells out the situation to everyone. It's very uncomfortable. So he just announces everyone and tells them, look, we're in counselling. That is what it is. It's like, see, did the world fall apart, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, Bree's not happy.
Bree is like, ladies and gentlemen, take your seats because, this party's just getting started. She is fuming. Now, we are at the dinner party from hell and it is awkward and nobody is vibing.
No one is saying a word.
And I just know in my heart of hearts, Mary Alice is sitting with popcorn from beyond the grave. Going, I guess it's not so easy to throw a dinner party, is it, Bree?
She's just looking through her list of conversation topics that they could pick from that they're not picking from. Like,
Of course, Susan breaks the silence with the naked story, which I think is actually a moment of her being a good friend. Going, you know what? We're all embarrassed. Let me open up the floor for something we can all...
for the team.
Yeah, we can all poke fun at. Then Lynette reveals that her and Tom were thrown out of Disneyland when they were first married. Lynette was a wild baddie. She has a past. And I think that is another hint that there was so much more to her before motherhood.
It's basically the humiliation Olympics. Everyone trying to soak up this embarrassing energy.
Then, quote of the week.
Oh my God, it's coming. I'm not ready.
Quote of the year.
Quote of the century.
Bree decides to up the ante with Rex cries after he ejaculates.
I don't even know what to say.
I mean...
We're straight back into that awkward silence.
I think it's fair that Rex gets up and leaves the room.
He leaves the house.
Well, yeah.
He picks up his keys and he walks right out of there.
And you would too.
Oh, yeah.
And also, what a reveal from Bree.
I also want to know more, like, why does Rex cry after he ejaculates? What's going on?
Can we add this to abandoned plot lines? Obviously, this is a huge betrayal for Rex. I get that. But having it come from Bree, who is so prim and proper, feels so...
Like, you know, it's an extremely calculated decision. It's not something she's let slip because Bree keeps everything inside. She doesn't ever let anything slip. So if she is giving out a personal detail, it is fully by a measured choice.
And what I like is there's such a contrast going on and a kind of a tug of war here between Rex saying, I want you to be a real human being, and him hating the real human being of Bree.
That's such a good observation.
Every time she lets the mask slip, he's furious. Now, I'm not saying what she's doing is okay, but he's trying to get real emotion out of her, and he hates her for it every time she shows it.
I don't think it's going to work, you guys, between them.
It's not looking good. It's not looking good.
Much like earlier in the episode when we had like a collection of small scenes of the women breaking the news to their husbands that they were going to have to go to this dinner party, we now get a paralleled scene of the women with their various husbands and partners debriefing.
This is the debrief, and I loved
the debrief.
every second of it. So Mike and Susan are walking back together, and Susan is trying to explain she isn't usually like that, aka how angry she was when Mike saw her with Brandy and Carl. Mike gives some truly unhinged advice, in my opinion. He says, look at Carl as a starter marriage, boot camp, preparing you for something better next time, which from a recent widow is crazy. Crazy thing to say. Mike reveals that he snuck a peek when Susan was naked, and it is cute and flirty, and he says, wow, about her, and it's fun, and again, very, very high school. It feels like the jock and the cheerleader are getting together.
Oh, it so does. And you know, he makes it clear he liked what he saw. And honestly, who wouldn't? Because Terry Hatcher is a babe.
Yeah, she's a babe. Everyone's a babe on this show.
So now we have Tonette. So Tom is asleep on the couch. When Lynette comes home, he says that one of the kids essentially grassed up Lynette about feeding them sugar before bed. But Tom is surprisingly chill about this. He's kind of finding the whole thing funny. And this, for me, was one of the first glimmers of a likable Tom quality.
Yes, I like that he isn't mad at her for the cookies. Every couple thinks they invented love, and I think that's normal, and I do think that's part of being in love. But he hears about what happened with Rex and Bree and says he isn't surprised because they never seemed happy to him. And Lynette turns around completely seriously and says, are we happy?
It was a chilling moment.
It felt really chilling. And I think they did such a good job, Felicity Huffman in that scene, of making it seem like that was the moment she wondered that for the first time.
Yeah, it's literally like she's just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
And next is Carly.
Okay, I hate Carlos in this scene. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. He's trimming his nose. Fine. He's saying, I would cry too if I had to have sex with that woman. How dare you?
Ouch.
Have you seen Marsha Cross? She's one of the most beautiful women on the planet. Bree is breathtaking, and you should be so lucky. And your wife is having an affair with a child. Anyway, Carlos says a woman would only ever humiliate him like that once. And Gabby looks genuinely afraid of him for the first time, I think. Carlos seems like the person that has the most power in the relationship. He is the financial breadwinner, if you will. He's the one with the business contacts. And it very much feels like Gabby is a stay-at-home wife without the same amount of resources at her disposal.
Yeah, she doesn't have a safety net, basically.
Yes.
Honestly, she really does look like she's shitting herself in this scene. Gabby looks like she forgot to take an Imodium with dinner and there's no toilet in a 5-block radius.
Imagine if we get sponsored by Imodium. Now that's Bandicamp. And this is my episodes. I hate it.
I love it. I love it. We're not on the same page. Oh my God.
Yes. So then we go back to Bree and Rex.
It's the next morning now.
It's the next morning. We're back to Bree and Rex. Bree is packing his suitcase for him. Bree even tells a joke.
It's a tennis joke, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. Bree has read a tennis joke book.
Part of her research for
Yes.
this lie. They need to turn up the heating because the vibes are cold.
The vibes are cold. And she says to him, in college, when we started dating, people were so jealous of us. And she's saying, why is this happening? And I think this is really common, that people look at other people in relationships and assume, particularly when they're young, I think we have more of an understanding with this as we get older, but when you're young, that if people are in a relationship, that means they're happy.
Yeah. Pretty little picture of a relationship.
Ooh. So she says, why is this happening? And he says, because you can't even let me pack my own suitcase. Now.
That's a lot to unpack from a suitcase.
Oh, he did it. He did it. I want to talk about you wouldn't let me pack my own suitcase. I don't know how much I believe their dynamic of Bree being powerful enough in their relationship that if Rex didn't insist that he would be allowed to do whatever he wanted, essentially. I think we see that in episode 1 when they're going to the dodgy diner that Bree doesn't want to go to. She does yield. What do you think?
We also, with the diner situation, have the kids' input, which is different.
Yeah.
I think in the case of the suitcase, I think maybe in the past, Rex would have put more of an effort in to be like, I'll pack my own suitcase or whatever. I get the impression that he's been worn down over the years with this kind of repeated kind of almost controlling behavior, because Bree does control all these visual aspects of their life, and as he said, like it's like living in a detergent commercial, etc.
Yes.
And I mean, it does feel like he's given up on the relationship long before they started counseling, and so I just think it's something that has happened over a long period of time.
Yes. Can I ask like an elder millennial question?
Absolutely.
What do we think their love languages are? Because Bree's definitely acts of service, it seems. I do think that is how she shows love, is acts of service. But I don't see any indication of what Rex's would be. And I wonder what it was at the beginning for them.
I suspect it's physical touch is one of them, purely because, well, we learn stuff about Rex later.
Yeah.
I think that's one of them. I also think quality time, which I reckon he doesn't really get as much anymore, because the time that they spend together now doesn't feel as genuine. It's all just for the gram, if you will.
Yes. Oh, she would totally have an Instagram housewife account. Okay, so afterwards, Bree looks visibly upset, but immediately snaps into control and starts fixing the bed.
Because that's her way of coping, is household chores and stuff. But you can see she's struggling to hold it together. She wants to cry and burst into tears.
I feel like we are approaching a breaking point with Bree.
Definitely. There's one thing to talk about separation, but this is such a big physical step, and, it's not something that she can keep up appearances on anymore and stuff. The kids are going to have to be let in on it and things, so this is a big difference now. Yes,
the secret is out of the bag, and I think everything that she has worked for in terms of this perfect family, her and Rex being the perfect couple, has completely fallen apart.
Yeah.
And this is the first time she feels that.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see how that unravels. Later, we then see Bree show up at Goldfine's office, unannounced, and demanding to know what Rex has been saying in his private sessions.
Not okay, Bree. Not okay.
And obviously, Goldfine can't give her that info, but he says that he'll go out and talk to his next client to see if they can reschedule so that Bree can have her own private session now. And when Goldfine is out the room, Bree does some snooping and looks through Goldfine's recorded tapes.
2004, very 2004.
Yeah, audio tape specifically of his sessions, and she's obviously looking for a recording with Rex's name on it.
Yes.
But instead, she stumbles across another tape labeled Mary Alice Young. Dun dun dun.
This is one of those moments where I would do exactly what Bree does here.
Oh yeah, she absolutely steals that tape.
I would take that tape immediately. I think that's such good writing. It would have been so obvious if she'd found Rex's.
Yeah, it just really kind of pulls the rug out from underneath you, because it's just not a connection you would have even considered.
And do we think there is one therapist in Fairview?
I think there's two, because I think the second one is Martha Huber's other side gig. She's also a therapist.
She did give that advice to Lynette about leaving her kids on the side of the road.
Exactly. She billed Lynette for that. So next we have one of two kind of apologetic scenes. So the first one is Carl dropping off Julie back at Susan's place, and Susan immediately jumps into the car before he can drive away, practically sitting on Brandy's lap. Naturally, it's a small sports style car, so there's not much space.
Carl is very much giving midlife crisis. Susan apologizes to Brandy and says that she is moving on, gets out the car, and I think she thinks in that moment, you know what, I don't need this apology, it's done. Then really beautifully, Brandy comes out of the car and says that she is sorry and she had no idea that their marriage was still happy, or at least happy on Susan's end before that affair started with Carl. And I love this moment. It humanizes Brandy. It gives Susan something to cling on to. It gives her a bit of closure on that situation. And Carl is still the villain. The obvious choice is to have Brandy be, or I think the obvious choice of the time would have been to have Brandy be this young, hot thing that stole Carl away. This kind of pantomime-esque villain. But this shows as well she was just another desperate woman. And maybe there's a show with Brandy and her girlfriends being in very similar storylines to what we were doing here.
Oh, that's a cute little thing to think about.
Yeah, I'm adorable.
Yeah. It's not like Susan's going to never fight with Carl again. We will see them argue many more times, but I think at least her like hot rage will be gone from their future interactions.
I think there's something as well about confronting your problems head on like Susan does here. Quite often you find that the monster under the bed isn't a monster. They aren't black and white. Nobody really goes into a situation thinking they're the villain. And then we get our second apology scene.
I freaking love this scene.
Me too. Reluctantly. So Tom comes down in a sombrero looking like it's his birthday at Taquitos as an homage to the picture that Lynette found. And Lynette comes in. Tom takes the groceries from her. She says, "You're wearing a really big hat." He's gotten out margaritas and he's put on music and it is sweet. There's Mexican food and she's reluctant at first. I think her guard is up. And he really honestly says to her, "Lynette, I am trying here."
Yeah, she says something like, it's going to take more than this one night to make things better.
Which I love. It's as well as it draws a real parallel to me from the last episode of Carlos and Gabby, because they're having basically the same conversation, but Tom is really listening to her in this moment.
Yes.
Tom is showing up. They have this beautiful dance moment and the kids are kind of staring, looking at their happy parents together. It's just nice. There is hope for Tom and Lynette in a way that there doesn't feel like there's hope yet for Carlos and Gabby.
Yeah, and the kids, this is the first time ever we've seen the kids be calm. They're not going mental. They're just sitting quietly on the stairs watching, and it's almost like they're mirroring their parents, because their parents have a chaotic marriage. They're chaotic. Their parents are happy and calm and communicating, and the kids are behaving, and that's interesting, I thought.
Yes. This is one of the few times I'm going to give some kudos to Tom Scavo.
Yeah. Enjoy it while you can. I also wrote that Lynette still looks phenomenal, and it's probably because it's the first time in years she's had a night off of the kids and has rested well.
Oh, yes. And can someone drop the company that made Lynette's face mask? Because it has worked wonders. Years have come off of her.
Yes, we'll be ordering them in bulk. We're going to have a giveaway to our listeners, to our little desperados.
Oh, stop saying desperados. Jakub, look at me and look at me. I need you to stop saying desperados. It is not going to happen.
Then we have our final little scene of the episode. We get Mary Alice's voiceover again, talking once again about fear to mirror how she spoke at the start of the episode. She says that to live in fear is not to live at all. But she also understands that while there will always be those who face their fears, there will always be those who run away. And then we get a shot of Paul putting up a for sale sign.
It's so foreboding. In the montage beforehand, Bree sitting with the tape, Gabby and John in bed, and Susan with the photos, and we're hearing this subtle thud over and over again. It feels a bit like a drum. And by the time we cut to Paul again, who, where everywhere else is warm, seems to be cold and blue and dark, it feels so ominous. It really is the side horror movie arc of the TV show.
It really is, as he hammers that sign right into the ground.
And again, this idea that Paul just can't cope with the loss of Mary Alice and he just needs to get out of there. He wants to forget that any of this has ever happened.
I also just really enjoy, in every episode, when Mary Alice's voiceovers tie up everything that we've seen nicely. Like the thing about people running away from their fears and some people facing their fears. Like we saw Susan face her fear with Carl. We saw Rex run away from the marriage and so on. And it's just interesting.
Yes, it is cheesy, but I love everything being tied up with a nice little ribbon at the end.
And that is the episode.
That is the episode. I love this episode.
Incredible, incredible. We obviously know what our quote of the week was.
Yes.
Who is your worst neighbor, Erin?
Who is your worst neighbor? I'm struggling.
So my worst neighbor is Ashley, the small child.
Excellent.
Because,
Excellent.
you know, when I think about worst neighbor, I think about who I personally wouldn't want to live next to.
Yes.
And you know what? I don't need any kids blackmailing me. That feels like that would make me really dislike them as neighbors. And in this case, it is a small child.
Hey, Ashley just wants to ride her little bike.
And I will not be teaching her.
I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to say the worst neighbour is Gabby because she's openly sleeping with an underage boy in view of Ashley, a child. Any child could walk past and see this inappropriate behaviour.
Very valid. Once again, see episode 2 rant on John the Child Gardener.
Do we think because we've not seen any stores or institutions, nobody's been at the dentist or the doctor this episode, that's why we haven't seen Martha?
Yeah, she's hustling.
She's always hustling.
She's always somewhere.
Martha Hustler. Let's talk about the biggest reveal of the episode, which is the human remains coming up.
Yes, okay.
What does this mean for us? Now, luckily for you, Jakub, I have no recollection of who the human remains are.
Ooh, okay, interesting.
I have a strong suspicion because I remember how the arc is tied up, but I don't remember who the human remains are. I think what is interesting about this confirmation is I think it levels Paul up in some ways from suspicious to person of interest.
To dangerous.
I'm trying to watch this with a new set of eyes, which is lucky because there are lots of things that I've forgotten. The implication in tone to me right now is that Paul has done something incredibly shady and Mike is a citizen detective.
I think with Paul as well, obviously we know there's a body. We don't know yet if Paul is responsible for that murder or not.
There is an implication here at this point that the body is a child.
Yes, because it was found in that small child's chest.
Yes, which again adds another level, I think.
Definitely. We don't want no child murderers in our neighborhood.
You're right, Jakub, we don't. And I'm so glad you said that. And thank you for being so brave to give us such a controversial take on this fine Sunday afternoon. Are we giving best outfit to Lynette?
Oh, 100%.
I think
that
so.
white dress, so elegant.
But most importantly, another piece of clothing for Lynette that comes back is those cute little glasses.
I saw them too. Do you want to talk about the husbands?
If we're talking about the husbands, this is one of the rare times that I am Team Tom Scavell. Everyone else sucks. Rex, Carlos,
Obviously, from the conversation we've had, I don't agree with this, but in my notes, for some reason, I've written Rex was perfectly justified in everything he said and did in this episode. And I don't know why I wrote that.
I'm going to quote Bree in the first episode to Andrew at the dinner table. Are you on drugs? A change of behaviour is the first sign.
I think, honestly, I might have just typed that in the very opening scene with the sofa bed, because as I've explained, I'm very personally triggered by that.
Yes, and we were both, this was very personal for both of us. The sofa bed for you, the bike being brought up for me.
Wow, why is Mark Cherry coming for us?
I know. It's probably because of us plagiarising his script with our higher drama play.
I'm sorry, Mark, I'm sorry.
I think bonus content, we need to dig out that script at some point.
Oh yeah, I have it somewhere.
If two random people from my high school started a podcast, I would be listening to every episode. So I just want to say, if you went to our high school and were in this play,
if you're interested in taking part in a dramatic reenactment,
come back to your role. Thank you so much for listening to us. We love you dearly. Stay desperate.
I kind of love that. Let's keep that in. Okay, bye. See you next week.
Love you, bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Be sure to check out our Instagram for visuals, behind the scenes content, and more.
You can find us by searching for Modded, that's MEWDYD.
Or just search for Mary Alice, What Did You Do?
This podcast is brought to you entirely by us, Erin McGee
And Jakub Tanzi. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to leave us a review. It really helps us out.
Join us next time for another episode of Mary Alice,
What Did You Do?